book lovers, welcome back to another of our live stream live book readings. Today we are reading the Siren War Saga, the first chapter, and I am so excited to jump into Celena's story. Let's go ahead and let's read the blurb for this book before we jump in so that we know what we're going to be reading about in my mermaid saga story. I'm so excited for this one. War has hovered around the kingdom of Scylla for generations, ever since the original sirens left the Mer collection generations ago after nearly drowning the human prince. Over the years, select mermaids from the royal bloodline have been trained as spies to work for the reigning kings and queens, keeping the collection safe from sirens and humans. Celena works with her partner Merrick. Celena and her partner Merrick work covertly for the royals. Not even her twin brother knows. When they discover the sirens have broken through the barriers the Mer set up to keep the sirens out, Celena and her friends must race to the old kingdom of Metten to stop them from starting a war within their borders. When she's dragged to the surface, Celena realizes that the war above the waters is as deadly as the one below the waves, and sacrificing herself may be the only way to protect her family. The Siren Wars have just begun. So today, we are going to be reading the first chapter of the Siren War Saga. I'm so excited for this one. I am going to be wearing my blue light blocking glasses this evening so that I do not burn out my eyes as we are doing this. So here we go. We're going to jump in. I'm going to put this up on the screen so you can see this as well. And we are going to dive in to the very first chapter of the Siren War Saga. And if you're joining me live, let me know what you love about this book, or if you are just brand new to this, if you've got a favorite character, let me know. I would love to hear from you guys as we dive in. Chapter 1. A well-placed accusation, even a small, insignificant one, has the power to change the tides and start a war. This is something I've grown up learning. My kind have always been careful with our words. We have to be. For the last 100 years, we've had to fight against the actions of one mermaid. Well, to be fair, one mermaid, her mother, and a group of followers, but that's just semantics. For over 100 years before that, we had to be careful too. We had an agreement with the humans. Are you intentionally trying to look like that? I ask, flicking my tail flirtatiously. Like what, Celena? Merrick glances up from where he's working on the seafloor against a rock, his brow low. Brooding, I reply. His face lights up, realizing he's been caught. Sorry, Len, he uses his pet name for me. No one else is allowed to call me that, as he moves his knife in his hand, cutting the rope. He brushes his blue hair back with a smoldering grin before lifting himself off the sand, swimming over to me. Need a hand with that? We're fine, Merrick, Caspian says. Go back to not paying attention to the rest of us. I didn't miss that much, he mutters. Sure, Caspian replies. Merrick gives him a mock-annoyed look, rolling his eyes as he grabs the net, helping us to untangle the rock. How did we get stuck on cleanup duty? Merrick asks, using his most charming voice as he sidles up next to me. We volunteered, I remind him. He murmurs. You volunteered. I just followed. Nothing new there, brother, Caspian teases loudly. Always following my twin around, no matter where she goes. Caspian has no idea why Merrick and I spent so much time together. Shut up, Casp, Merrick chides, winking at me. What neither of the boys know is that I didn't volunteer just to help out. I'm on a mission. It amazes me how the humans are still so intent on capturing us, Caspian murmurs. It's been 100 years since Persephone ruined the alliance for us. Be fair, Casp, it wasn't just Persephone. Shantag was instrumental in all of this. Most say she was the mastermind and her daughter was just following along. My fingers work to cut away the net, weaving gently in the current. My knife in my hand is far more effective than the broken shells. Wow, guys, I'm sorry, my watch is buzzing and it's setting me off here. The knife in my hand is far more effective than the broken shells I sometimes resort to using for cutting up the instruments of death that fishermen leave on the ocean when they snag on something like coral or rocks. It's a shame we can't just sing the work away. Coralie swims over, attempting to carry a large round ball. She barely manages to roll it across the seafloor. That's not the way Siren works, starfish, I correct her, and stop playing with that cannonball. My little sister pouts, looking up. I'm not playing with him, I'm trying to help, she mutters. We don't need to collect human things, just remove the dangerous ones, I remind her. Coralie has only been out to help us a few times, but I'd rather she stay at home. She's far too young for me to be able to sneak off and she's far too young for me to be able to sneak off and run missions while she's with us, and Caspian will start to catch on if I dump her in his care all the time. It would be It would still be easier if we could sing it away, she grumbles, running her hand through her blonde hair. We are not sirens, Core, and don't even suggest that, I snap. Caspian and Merrick stop to look at me. I try not to blush as I lower my voice. We are not like that, Coralie. Sireny has been outlawed since great-grandmother Isla caught Persephone sirening the prince. We're better off, Caspian mumbles. We don't need the humans to survive. They haven't been able to find us in 100 years anyway, so who cares what stupid stunt Persephone and her mother pulled? You mean aside from hundreds of dead humans, the mer population splitting, our entire kingdom having to leave our home and move here, and, oh yes, the entire human race hunting for us for a century? I chide him. Settle down, children, Merrick chimes in, playfully trying to quell an impending argument. This is why Caspian has never been informed of my extracurricular activities over the last few years. This is also why Merrick has been on most of my missions with me. Well, maybe we could train the sharks to move this stuff for us, Coralie suggests. I certainly have my hands full with this one. Coralie, it's all we could do to train them to act as a barrier for Scylla, for Coral's sake. It's not like they're pets. They don't have the ability to open things like an octopus does. They're there to eat, that's all. Well, maybe Grandma Isla should have come up with a better plan, Coralie mumbles. Isla saved us all, Cor. I eye her. Show a little respect. She prevented Persephone from destroying the entire mer population, and she even managed to bring Persephone in from the open seas. I idolized my great-great-grandmother and aunts. They were heroes. Isla even saved the humans, though they didn't deserve her help one bit. Princess Celena helped. Wow, that was rough. Princess Celena helped, Coralie persisted. So did Eva. And Shantae went on to live and cause destruction for years before she died. Coralie, Merrick interrupts, flicking his hand to send a small seahorse toward her. You understand the sirens terrorized the mer and the humans, right? Your ancestors did a great thing when they set up the shark barrier to prevent them from attacking us here in Scylla. Coralie has always loved the stories of our great-great-grandmother and always wanted to visit the Old Kingdom, so she's just being stubborn because she doesn't want to work. I know, she sighs. My sister tries to suppress her grin when the brown seahorse darts by her. I just wish that this were easier, or more fun. Tell you what, I smile, suddenly getting an idea. Why don't you let Casp take you home, and Merrick and I will finish up here. We're almost done anyway. She cheers before my twin can protest. He grumbles, brushing back his hair. You two behave, he pretends to be serious, pointing at us. He wraps an arm protectively around our sister and guides her through the currents along the ocean floor. When I turn back around, Merrick is working overtime to cut up the abandoned net. He nods for me to join him. I take it we have somewhere to be? He asks casually. Yes. You weren't planning on taking me along, were you? Merrick glances at me through his long, wavy bangs. He caught me. It's not a big deal. Everything we do is a big deal, Celena. Every time we get near the shark barrier or swim up one of the reefs, it's a big deal. They wouldn't have trained us for this if they didn't want us to do it, I say, rolling my eyes at him. Just remember which one of us nearly swam into a bloom of jellyfish the last time we went out alone, he reminds me with a smirk. I only did that because you showed up and distracted me. You mispronounced save. You mispronounced saved, he grins wildly. Hardly pretty, boy. We snap each rope on the net, making sure that no mer or sea creature would get tangled in it. At least this one wasn't covered in barbs like the last one we found. Like your ill use today, Merrick adds, eyeing my chest covering. Judging by those weapons you hid in it and called decorations, I'm guessing your little mission isn't as serene as you led me to believe. Of course he'd noticed the broken shells I hid in the netting and decor of my top. Merrick notices everything. I slip my knife into the pouch tucked along my belt where it rests over my hips as my partner does the same. Belts were always traditionally worn by mermen a century ago to show power and prestige. The mermen would wear them specifically for special events or if they held a place of power. Now most mer have a version that they wear, especially when going to town or leaving the kingdom proper. So where are we going? Merrick asks. This way, I reply, darting away. I race around the seaweed gardens, swimming just high enough that their wispy tips don't touch me as I glide over them. A sea turtle swims off to the left, not bothering to take notice of us. There's been word that the sirens have found a way in on the west side of the kingdom. I just want to check and make sure that nothing has changed since we've last been there. Did they ask you to check? Merrick challenges me. She doesn't have to, I snip, flicking my tail to propel me faster, leaving Merrick in a trail of bubbles. She, the queen, or she, your mother? He easily catches up to me, having far more powerful tail than I do. Take your pick, I retort. It's rough being princess to the entire Mer kingdom, isn't it? Merrick mocks. I'm barely a princess, I remind him, darting around a school of fish. Merrick pulls away at the last second, barely missing them as I smirk. You descend from royalty. Just because your cousin holds the official crown doesn't make you any less of a princess. I'm a warrior, Merrick. I hardly sit around a palace all day. Neither does your cousin, he points out as we slow our pace. You work for this kingdom. You all work for this kingdom. You just take it more seriously than the rest. Isla did. You don't have to do everything Princess Isla did, he counters. And if you'll recall, she didn't set out to do any of it. It just happened. Next thing I know, you'll be swimming to the surface to meet some human prince. He rolls his eyes at me as he brings up Prince Jarek, the human Persephone tried to Siren when she caused the war. I had no intention of befriending a human, thank you very much. That would be a stroke in the wrong direction for sure. Ah, but speaking of a stroke in the right direction, looks like our ride's just arrived, Merrick calls, rushing forward. His hand darts out, catching hold of a dolphin. He quickly reaches back, grabbing my hand as the creature pulls us forward. Once he pulls me to him, I catch my own ride. The coral barrier stretches up high toward the surface of the ocean, protecting Scylla from intruders. The barrier blocks larger ships from entering most of the territory, protecting us from many of the humans' attempts to find us. While their searches have slowed, it's very clear that they're not done looking for trophies to take home. A year ago, I found a book that had fallen to the ocean floor describing the absurd ideas humans had about Mer. One page detailed our bone structure, which, in fact, they do know from cutting up our ancestors, while another page contained information about how we cry pearls and dissolve into foam when we have our hearts broken. Humans are curious creatures who clearly haven't learned much in the last 2 centuries. When we finally let go of the dolphins, Merrick and I examine the coral. Nothing looks out of place, though it's been months since we've last been here. I only make it out to this side of the kingdom a few times a year just to check on it. We have mermen standing watch at all times, but I like to see for myself. What I don't understand is how the sirens have been getting in, Merrick murmurs. We have all these barriers in place. We're protected. How are they slipping in? We've only seen evidence of a few so far, barely enough to warn the people. We've never officially found any inside Scylla, I know, Merrick sighs, but how is it possible? The few sirens we've noticed have disappeared before we could bring them in for questioning. The Mer have only seen them from a distance. Rumors have spread like seaweed that the sirens have changed in appearance. Long, hideous noses, scraggly hair, and sea serpent-like tails. I know that can't be true based on the books I found from the humans. Sirens still look just like the Mer because they still are Mer. They just cultivated their wicked talents while the Mer forced it out of our offspring. Once, we all had the ability to sing a human into doing our bidding. Now, only sirens hold the dark magic. Instead, we avoid humans and their destruction, leaving us no need for the deadly songs sirens have the ability to sing. True, Marceline, the defender of the sea, originally sirened King Leon to create an agreement with the Mer, but that only lasted a century until Persephone ruined that promise of safety for us. Marceline's great-great-granddaughter, Isla, tried desperately to save the agreement and repair our relationship with the humans, but today we find ourselves living deep under the sea, refusing to venture to the surface where we once used our voices to save the humans on the rough ocean surface. Now, we wouldn't surface to save a drowning fisherman or guide a ship to safety through a storm for any price. We don't associate with the population trying to murder us. Can you feel that? Merrick asks, holding his arms out to his side. The tide is changing. Just beyond the coral reef, the temperature drops. It's not a terrible difference, but just enough to be noticeably cooler. I pause, giving Merrick his moment. Truthfully, I can sense the difference as the water drifts around me. I still don't see anything different, I finally announce. I don't either, he frowns. We should go. We'll come up with another idea. Instead of turning around with him, I flip my tail, propelling myself toward the surface. A moment later, Merrick is by my side, grumbling. Careful not to touch the coral to avoid damaging it, I peer over the top of it, looking out into the blue ocean. Seaweed waves against the current while small fish swim in and out of the grass. A shadow passes over the seafloor, stealthily gliding over rocks, sand, and seahorses. I gasp. Get down, Merrick commands, pulling me down below the top of the coral. I struggled to get away. No, I protest, prying his fingers off my waist. We need to see the ship. Reluctantly, he swims us both back up to the edge. The ship drops a net that silently slices through the water. Fish dart out of the way as the fishermen search for dinner or a mer trophy to string up on their mast before taking them back to the land to show their people. We watch as the net drags through the ocean, something shiny sparkling from the ropes. Suddenly, a figure darts out from behind the coral on the ground. She races toward the net, swimming as quickly as she can. "What is she doing?" Merrick whispers as the mermaid catches up to the net. The mermaid suddenly changes course, propelling herself straight up into the middle of the net. She tries untangling a shiny object from the rope. When she can't free it, she struggles against it, pulling as hard as she can to rip the object free. It's hard to see her from so far away as she thrusts her hand deeper into the net, frantically trying to retrieve the object. After a moment, her movements change as anger and frustration shift to panic. "She's stuck," I murmur. "Celena," Merrick quickly warns, looking at me, "we can't." "We can't let them take her," I plead with him. "She's a siren. King Gaspar made it very clear that we aren't allowed to help them." "King Gaspar has been dead for nearly a century," I protest. "Even so, he did everything in his power to try to keep us all together." "You realize that the only one of us that gets forgiveness if we decide to become a rebel." Oh, nope, read that one wrong. "You realize that only one of us gets forgiveness if we decide to become a rebel, right?" Merrick remarks, giving me a look before glancing at the mermaid. The net shifts. Nope. The net lifts toward the surface, and his face falls. "Merrick," I shout. My worry was in vain. Merrick was already swimming over to the reef. I flick my tail, racing forward to follow him as we rush toward the siren. No matter how hard we try, we'll never reach her in time. The last thing I see is her red tail lifting out of the water, her wrists still tangled in the net as she screams. Merrick never slows, pushing to reach her. "Merrick!" My shouts don't deter him. He doesn't stop until she's gone. My friend pauses in the water, floating in the bubbles that trailed off the mermaid's thrashing tail. "We have to go." His voice is dark when he turns back to me. I stare at the bottom of the boat, far closer than it should be. "Len, we have to go." As quickly as a dolphin, Merrick dives at me, knocking me out of my trance. He pushes me back, tail beating against the water to move us away from the boat and out of siren territory. "Merrick, we can't leave her." "Oh, yes, we can," he says as if it's not an option. "I wasn't joking about the grace thing. We crossed a line just now. As a royal, you might be given leniency, but I certainly will not. Our mothers work together, Merrick. You'll be fine." Something sparkles above us, reflecting off the water. Red trickles down, slowly fading to where the sky meets the sea. A firework, a celebration of a mermaid catch. "Right now, they're tying that mermaid to the beams on their ship, Celena. I won't have them do that to you. We're leaving." "Merrick, she's a mermaid. She's about to suffer the unthinkable. Maybe we can rescue her." "You know, that's been attempted before and hasn't worked," he argues. He's terrified for my safety, and while I understand that, I can't just swim away. "None of those mer know as much about the humans as you and I do. We've studied them," I reply. "From books. We've studied them from books." He looks desperate, pleading with me to turn back. "We have to," I whisper. "Len," he whispers back. His fingers grip the shell necklace that rests on his chest. When he sighs, I know I've won. He grabs my hand as we race after the boat. The water rushes against my ears, flooding my senses. We push harder, forcing ourselves beyond what any mer is normally capable of doing. My hand slips to the knife on my hip. I fumble for it, unable to detach it as I swim toward the human boat. I doubt it would do any good, even if we could reach them. "Stay below the surface," Merrick warns, grasping my hand tighter. Bits of my pink hair float around me as we come to a sudden halt. We're far enough away from the boat that the men likely won't take notice of us, but close enough that I can see them trying to tie the thrashing mermaid to the mast of their ship. She struggles against them, trying to siren them into submission. Her singing appears to be working as most of the men back away. Several untie her as she frantically sings. I'm mesmerized by her ability to control them. "I didn't think that was possible," I murmur. I know that we all once had the ability to control humans with our voice, but over the last century, that skill was taken away from us, trained out of our people until it no longer existed. To see Siren so strong was an incredible experience. I almost wish I could surface and listen to her song. They pass her along the deck of the ship near the edge, close enough that we can see her moving. Not everyone is under her spell, though. Several men race toward her in anger. The edge of the ship covers our view. Merrick holds me back. In my distraction, I had nearly surfaced to see the scene unfold. "We can help her if she makes it to the water, but Len, we have to be careful. Your mother will kill me if you get hurt." "You're more scared of my mother than you are of the queen," I snap back. When the mermaid crashes into the ocean, red plumes around her, mimicking the color of her tail. So there you have it, friends. That is the first chapter of the Siren Wars saga, and this is available for you to read right now by going to sirenwarsinfo.kmrobinsonbooks.com, and this is actually free in ebook form right now. If you want to get your hands on a copy of the Siren Wars saga, you can look that up on all of the main platforms or go to sirenwarsinfo.kmrobinson.com for more behind the scenes of the Siren Wars saga. You can go over to kmrobinson.com and access our world portals, where I'm taking you on a behind the scenes look of the book, the creation, the incredible spine, the covers, the great things going on inside of the Siren Wars saga. We take you behind the scenes of what it looks like inside of the book and the ebook. There's so much fan art and fabulous stuff over there. I would love for you guys to go check that out. And you can get the book for free in ebook form right now on all the major platforms. You can go to sirenwarsinfo.kmrobinsonbooks.com for more. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We will be back again with another live book reading. Let me know, which books do you want me to read next? Jaded? Do you want me to read Sugar Coated? Whoop, missed that one. Sugar Coated, Lions and Lamps. We've done some of the other ones. So let me know, what book do you want to see me read next? I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Make sure you hit the subscribe and notification bell if you have not done so already. And I will see you at KM Robinson Books on all the social media platforms, where we are doing all sorts of behind the scenes things. And we've got some really cool new video series coming up for you. So stay tuned, because you do not want to miss out. I will see you guys again in our next episode. Until then, I